All right, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of Back to Business webinar series. My name is Hilary Rand. I am a partner at Think Hospitality and one of the co-founders of New Baltic Hospitality Forum. And together with great support from Enterprise Estonia and the city of Tallinn, we put together with our team these 7 series episodes to help businesses launch and rebuild and restart after this craziness of the coronavirus lockdown. We are now at our second episode session. We started 2 weeks ago, so I hope everyone has enjoyed a beautiful summer solstice week. I think over maybe 10 years we've had incredible weather, so I'm really excited that people could take some time off and enjoy the weather and being with family and loved ones as lockdowns have eased in many places around the world. So if you weren't with us 2 weeks ago, I just would like to quickly run through a few things. So if just the screen will work, perfect. So this is just to show you our team. We are the founders of the New Baltic Hospitality Forum, and there's a great band of 5, so to speak. So Maarika, Katrin, Annette, Ain, and myself, and we've been working very hard to create content and bring people together in our industry in the region. So we had our first event last year in April. We brought 24 speakers and 204 delegates from 13 countries to Tallinn. We put together a great one also for this year, for April. Unfortunately, it's been now moved to October. You all know the reason why, and it's still gonna go ahead as of now. We see where we are when the time comes closer, but fingers crossed that we can still do most of it in person. So make sure you do mark those dates. And what those 7 webinars are about. So we started last week with a kind of a broader introduction and what sort of happened, and looking at some of the numbers in the Baltics and our neighboring countries. Today, the focus will be on how to restart your team, and shortly I will give it over to Maarika to lead that session. Next week, we're going to look at product and service and how expectations have changed and what that means. Thereafter, we're going to move to cost and revenue management, then touch upon communications with a focus on client, look at what this means for the real estate and finance side of things, and then look really what's the path forward, because things are really changing on a weekly basis. So here's what we're going to do after each session. Hopefully most of you who attended the first one received this in your mailbox as well. So we have a wonderful Hetty who is producing these sort of infographics for us after each session, so we see what the kind of main and key takeaways are from each. So we do that both in English and in Estonian. So make sure you go to our website if you didn't receive it, and also all the presentations, if we do have presentations, will be put on the website as well as the recording of each of the webinars. So if you do miss parts of it, or you do want to share with your teams, do make sure you do go and see our website. And now, without further ado, I'm going to give it over to Maarika, who's going to be the moderator for the rest of the session, and is gonna take you through what you're going to hear about today. So Maarika, over to you.
Thank you very much, Hilary. Thank you, and welcome everybody to participate in our second episode. Today, the focus will be on teams. We will be talking about how to restart the team after the great lockdown. Now it's the new kind of a sentence or new mark used as the Great Recession. Now we talk about the great lockdowns. But I'm very happy to actually introduce 3 panelists today who are accompanying me, or actually who will be talking from their experiences and their knowledge, everything regarding the leadership skills and people management. So today we have Hetty Brand-Boswijk actually connecting with us from Rotterdam. Welcome, Hetty, Director of Coaching and Lead Coach at Rotterdam School of Management. We have Tarkka, who is a member of advisory board at different hotel groups, and she's been connected to Camp Collection Hotels recently, opening up numerous properties and leading hundreds of people. And John Hollywood from UK, Talent Development Manager at Iconic Luxury Hotels. So welcome everybody, and let's start off. So yeah, when talking about teams then and people actually, then of course bringing along the service and probably thinking about the service will definitely change. And we see that the change will be from the side of offering the service as well as receiving the service. And when I have been talking to different experts on people management recently, then actually several ideas that have been told by them. So one good thing is that people will still travel. And international traveling polls are showing that actually 90% of people will feel comfortable to travel within 6 months internationally. And the ones who are already comfortable, they would like to travel a driving distance. But the thing that they will start valuing more is actually to seek the real value rather than the lowest price. And as the value is perceived and also presented by people, I would say that this would be something that all the leaders, managers, and teams will have to look up. Another thing that was also mentioned by these groups of experts is that attitude will matter much more than previously. And that means that the companies who have been treating their employees better before the great lockdown will actually come back sooner. And of course, there's a lot of talk about agile teams and smaller teams and different skills. The ultimate topic that I would like to start off, but before we will do it, we will do a short poll, is leadership. So I would like to launch a first poll with the help of Hillary, and the question will be that what are the new skills that our hospitality industry will be needing or the industry needs?
So there's now a poll on your screen. It is totally anonymous, so we won't know who's going to vote for what. So please do make your selection so we get a sense of what do you think the most important skill is needed going forward. Is it critical thinking? Is it creativity? Is it emotional intelligence? Or is it adaptability? So I'll give you a few seconds to vote on that. Again, it's totally anonymous, so feel free to speak your mind, so to speak. So we won't know who said what. I know that is important for many people. I see that there is quite a clear winner, but I'm going to wait for about 85% to be voted, so a few more votes that are needed. All right, that's perfect. That sounds good. So there we go. I'm going to end the poll and I'm going to share the results. So you now see on the screen, and I think this is not a big surprise for all of us, that adaptability is the highest one rated. But I think it's interesting that creativity comes right next to it. So I think it will be interesting to hear from our panelists how this ties in into how to rebuild your team. So I'm going to stop the sharing now and give it back to Maarika.
Thank you, Hillary. So coming back to leadership and coming back to the topic where actually probably the leaders will matter more, I would like to give the word to Hetty and would like to ask you to expand that. What has changed and what will change for leaders after the great lockdown? Please, Hetty.
Thanks, Maarika. And I just want to say, first of all, thank you for inviting me to come and share some thoughts with you today. I thought that poll was really very interesting because, to tell you the truth, I hadn't expected adaptability to come out at the top, but all of them are actually important. And if you look at adaptability, that brings to mind something that is really important for leaders. And that is to adapt to a sort of a new normal, if we're talking about a new normal. You need the emotional intelligence, you need the creativity, and you need the critical thinking. So all four things that were on the poll. But one thing that comes up for me a lot in leadership, and particularly in the area of the coaching perspective on leadership, is that in a crisis, which is what many companies have been in recently, what actually happens to human beings is that, just from a neuroscience perspective, the crisis puts you into shock. And when you go into shock, in any kind of shock, when there is some kind of threat, the body reacts and the brain reacts by pumping adrenaline through your body, and you just get into like the fight, flight, or flee kind of situation. And what's happening at this moment when we're talking about restarting in a new normal is that the initial shock has sort of passed. We're beginning to get used to what life will be after the COVID-19 crisis. But what happens when you get over the initial shock is that the adrenaline sort of reduces. So you don't have that adrenaline to push your energy, to push your creativity, etc. And the creativity is definitely necessary to think about, okay, so what's next? And without that extra push of adrenaline, you're going to have to call on reserves. And for leaders in particular, it's important to call on your own reserves first. I always say to people, self-care is the most selfless thing you could do. People say, I'm not going to take care of myself. I've got my team and that sort of stuff. The problem is that if you ignore your own needs, this will have an impact on your team. So the first step is to ensure you look at your own needs first. So identify your own fears, your own concerns, your own anxieties. And on the level also of emotional intelligence, this is important for you as well as your team. And actually identifying that for yourself will give you at least half an idea of what your team is going through. It's not easy to identify it for yourself. Auto coaching doesn't actually exist. Even coaches have a coach. So get out there, talk to people of your level, talk to a colleague, a peer about what they're going through, and share. And sort of, it's not exactly mentoring, but it's at least, I always say sharing is caring. A shared load is a halved load. So once you've identified what's going on for you, you'll understand a bit more what's going on for your team. So the next step is, getting to your team, and actually, many leaders are held responsible and accountable for the bottom line. There is a lot coming at us as leaders right now about getting back to business, getting, through this recession and all this stuff. There's a lot of stress. But I would always advise someone to take the time just to sit down with the team and let them vent. Let them say how they're feeling. And this is all about the human being. Very often we will see people working and seeing their teams as human doings. Actually, the whole world sees us as people as human doings, working, doing stuff. You ask someone what tell me a little bit about yourself, and they'll tell you what they do. They won't tell you who they are. They'll tell you what they do, because they find that what they do defines them, but it doesn't. It only describes them. So really look at your team members as individuals first. And the coaching approach to this, there are 3 things that are really important. And you can use this on yourself and use it on your team members. The first one is get curious. Don't make assumptions about if you've got that concern, they'll have it as well. Just get curious about what's really going on with them in their personal lives as well. You have to focus on the whole person. The person that comes to the job is only half the person. They have private lives. They may have struggled with homeschooling for their kids. They may have struggled with, lots of things in their personal lives. So see them as a whole person and get curious about them. The second thing is listen. And don't just listen, but really hear what they're saying. And this means focus. Focus on who they are, not what they do. And the third thing is ask questions. When you get curious and you actually hear what they're saying, feel your intuition. What are you curious about when they're saying something about their kids? And even if it's just a simple question like, what was it like to homeschool your children? really listen and hear what they're saying. And I often call, there's an extra dimension to hearing, and I often call it see hearing. Nowadays, we're on the screen, we've got this much of us showing, but you can still identify some non-verbal communication. You can see what's happening to the face, the eyebrows, the mouth, whether there's a smile or not. And this is see hearing. So if something's coming out of their mouth and it's not reflecting on their face, then get curious about that too. So find out what's going on with each individual of your team. That's the second step. And it's a simple rule of human beings want to be seen and heard. And if you, as a leader, you see and hear your people with empathy, with curiosity, then that will actually improve the chemical balance. You'll give them a shot of dopamine, a shot of serotonin, instead of the stress hormones like cortisol and stuff. You don't want your team to be having that. And the third step is then, once you've identified what's going on with each individual, is to identify what's going on with the team. So have, for instance, during this period of this great lockdown, have people's values changed? And if people's individual values have changed, if they're starting to look at their lives differently in a different balance, different things may have become important to them. You have to find out whether that's reflected in the values of the team. You know, if someone says, my health has suddenly become really important to me and I don't want to come back to the office even though I'm allowed, how are you going to deal with that? How does that change the balance in the team? And you have to recalibrate what's going on in the team in order to get to the point where you can say, okay, now we have a balanced team, and now we can move forward and look at the bottom line. So there's a lot that goes before that, and it's about the human being. You know, your bottom line wouldn't exist if you didn't have those people doing what they do for you. But next to being a human doing, they are a human being. So it's about getting curious, it's about listening, it's about asking questions, and it's about identifying new values. And you start with yourself.
Brilliant, Hetty. You put a very big set of information into a very, well-formatted sentence.
Well, I'm trying to bottom line because, you know, this is something that I could talk about for days. But, you know, and also, you know, when we talk about reskilling, a lot of people are going like, I'm not a coach. I wouldn't know how to coach. And coaching is just one of a number of leadership competencies that in the past people may not have thought that they needed, or they might be actually using it a little bit and not calling it coaching skills or leading from a coaching perspective. I just want to mention that there is a great article on the Harvard Business Review called The Leader as Coach. I think it's a number of years old. And it's a multiple page article that goes through all the steps, and there are other things. So, you know, basically you can just Google the leader as coach if you get curious about what does that actually mean. I come at it from a neuroscience perspective. I'm a neurotransformational coach because understanding the connection between mind and heart and gut, your intuition, is really important. We don't come to this as robots. We come to this as totally integrated human beings, and each human being is different. So yes, there's a lot more to say about this, and I'd be more than happy for people to reach out to me and who want to discuss this in a little bit more detail. But I understand that this morning time is limited.
Absolutely, but everything that actually we also discussed with you before preparing this webinar actually was captured brilliantly. So what I love very much, and I think that that's about a little bit perceived as a soft skill, is to see first human being versus human doing, and this is definitely something to take away the leaders to become, in a way, yeah, we discussed with you that maybe soft skills is being used so far also towards coaching, but actually you said that it's more of a complex skill pattern, and that's
there's actually nothing soft about coaching. It's pretty complex because it is so broad, because you have to look at the whole person, you know, focus on the whole person. So it's about understanding the human doing, which you probably understand really well as a leader. You know, what is it we have to do, but then taking the time and just taking a deep breath and saying, okay, so who are we being while we are doing this? Because that will have changed for a lot of people over the last 3-4 months. You know, and recalibration in order to move forward in the most effective way possible is really important.
Thank you, Hetty. Thank you for this, how to say, a set of knowledge and a very good start of our webinar. I will pass over to Hilary to have a short poll again after the first topic about leadership, because leaders are the ones to follow and set the example. So we're very much looking up to them or towards them. So please, Hilary, if we can have our second poll.
Yes,
before we move on.
So I'm going to launch the next poll, which is about leaders, which I think is really interesting given what we've just heard. So you'll see it on your screen, and please vote again. It's all unanimous. What is the most important expectation from a leader in the next normal? Is it empathy? Is it resilience? Is it inspiration? Is it effective management? So you should see that on your screens now. Again, this is anonymous. We won't know who voted for what. So I'm going to give you a few seconds, everyone, to vote. This is interesting. We have two that are competing in terms of getting the most votes. We are at 70%, so I'm going to let a few more seconds. We have 51 people watching, so thank you everyone for joining. This is great. I know it's summer vacation time, but this is a very important topic. So I really, really appreciate you tuning in. So we have now, I'm around 80%, so I'm going to end the poll. And we have pretty much a tie. So I'm going to share the results now. So what do we see? Empathy won with 38%, but just after that is inspiration. And then we have effective management and resilience coming thereafter. So I think quite proves the point and very much speaks to what Hetty was saying. And I think it's a good segue now into the next section. Back over to you, Maarika.
Thank you very much, Hilary, and thank you everyone giving us their views and ideas that what to expect next. So we're going further, and I have a great honor to welcome Laura Tarkka. I understand that you are in Helsinki now.
Wait, we can't hear you, Laura. You are, maybe see if your sound is on, because you are not on mute. Okay, there we go. Let's try again.
All right. So it's
hold on. Let me try again. I'm gonna see if I can.
But I can just
hold on. Let's try it again. For some reason, we can't.
Still, yeah. But I can do a short introduction that while preparing for the webinar, I had a couple of talks with Laura, and we were actually talking about the teams and new skills. And this morning I looked at LinkedIn, where Zoku was hiring, or actually they issued an international search for a community manager in hospitality, or in their network in Denmark, Copenhagen. So probably we will be seeing a lot of new positions coming up in our industry. And do we have a voice of Laura?
No, maybe Laura, try taking off your headphones and see if that would work.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Better. Yes.
Okay, good. I can't hear you, but let's try this again. But it's
okay.
but let's try this one. Okay, thank you. My privilege to be here. Yes, greetings from Finland. Not sunshine. And of course, I'm hugely privileged to be here because until yesterday I was running the 10 hotels in Helsinki. And now I'm taking some time off and figuring out what I will be in the future. This is long overdue. Our company was sold to Nordic Choice, Petter Stordalen, about a year ago. However, this has been the most interesting spring, and thank you, Hetty, for the very insightful information, because I relate to fully what you've been saying, and that's it. My background is I'm not a hotelier. I'm actually an engineer. Been working with this company. This was my first hotel job, and been working for this company for 6 years now, until yesterday, a little bit more than that. But the key point is that I've been working with several service industry businesses also prior. What makes this business really unique is that this is open 24/7. There are very few businesses that actually are open 24/7, and this actually puts a huge pressure on the skills of the leaders and of course for the employees as well, and for the whole organization structure. And at the same time, you're talking with of course, there are businesses that are, a lot of factories are working 24/7, but there is not that many service businesses that are open 24/7. And those combination of those actually puts the, diamonds develop under pressure. And I think this industry brings diamonds because of that. That's one of the things. And when we were talking about the skills with Maarika, that what are the ones that I personally see, this is my personal opinion, nobody really knows, great lockdown only, it has been few months, and we are now gradually opening up. So who will ever know what will be happening in the future? But with our 10 hotels, all placed in Helsinki, and by the way, you guys over there in Estonia, you are our biggest competitor at the moment because the borders are open. But that's why I also think this is quite unique, because I think where the rivals are the best. When there's a great competition, that also brings the pressure more, and you'll become better. And that's one of the key abilities, I think, for the leaders, is to handle the pressure. Of course, and getting back all the things what Hetty was mentioning, the emotional intelligence. And I was quite surprised that resilience didn't come out that strong, because I think what I personally seen is that the resilience is a really, really big factor. But I think the the pressure, handling the pressure, our industry has been about that all the time anyway, but now it's even more harder because it comes from various streams and all sorts of things. But the first skill really, and it goes back to the emotional thing, and maybe I've divided this a little bit, is listening. I think now it's the key time to listen. Like Hetty, you were saying the same thing. It's not, that is the thing. And like you were saying that, we've been running on the huge adrenaline during the whole spring. And now, even though, thank goodness, there's the summer break, and of course, a lot of our people, 95% of our team of the 660 people was temporarily laid off. It has not been a holiday for them. Everybody has been scared, even though they've been working from home, or, not working at all, but being at home. It's still the huge amount of adrenaline has kept them going. And now when we're gradually opening up, people are very, very tired. So you need to listen very carefully. You need to have the emotional intelligence at the same time, so not just to read the business, because that's hard enough on its own, but then again, read the people and make sure that they don't collapse. You might have the toughest players you've had in your team all along, but then something might happen. It's their family issues, something like that. But this is a really, really odd time, and that's why I'm super scared. And that's why having this, thanks to Hillary and Maarika about the webinar, because I think we will survive this summer somehow. Of course, the business will be bad, but we'll survive it. But the fall will be the hard part, because then it will be, the new normal it will not be the new normal what we're thinking now. It will be something, it might be better, it might be worse, but people will be very, very tired. And we know up here in the Nordics, the fall is anyway horrible. It will be raining, and that will not help people's emotions. So I really hope for the sunshine for the summer also, because that will make people a lot better. So listening, I think, is the first skill. Then again, I think also, Hetty, you mentioned about this. I think it goes to resilience, whether we talk about agility, flexibility, that's crucial. But I think it starts from the things that you need to let go. You need to let go a lot of old things that you've been thinking, This industry, I've been working with various industries prior. This is the most conservative industry I've ever been. It's, maybe it's, it goes that then one of my third skill, which is adaptability to technology. As said, I'm an engineer. I work with a lot of things, people who normally, engineers go, people who love math, they go to engineering. People who love service and things go to hospitality. Of course, this is a huge, there's something in between. But then again, these people are sort of afraid of math. And math is actually, it's creativity. It's nothing else. And that's why I think there's a lot more potential with, technology as such. Of course, if I would have been, given €1 every single time somebody called me and offered me an app to study, guest satisfaction, I would be a millionaire. But that's not the point. That's not about the technology, what I'm talking about. I'm talking about really focusing, because now everybody's reinventing their markets. So of course there are the OTAs who, taking us over several years ago already, but there's so many things we can do now. This is now the time, because everybody's on their knees, the OTAs, all the marketing, all the, the other functions. So focus on the selling, focus on the marketing, use the technology, use the big data, because nobody really knows what it is. So we need to understand, we need to listen, not just our teammates, but also to our guests. And that's something we did this spring, out of the 10 hotels we kept open to. And at the Easter time, we were really cautiously monitoring the news, that what is the situation here in Finland? Are people getting sick? What's happening? Blah, blah, blah. But also kind of the tone of the news, whether it was the tone of the news, was it like the coronavirus is super, deathful and horrible thing, or whether it's the point that it's really bad for the economy. I personally, of course, it's a very severe, virus, but the point is that I think it's much more deadly to our economy, and that's why it will kill much more people than actually the virus as such. Of course, we're talking about now nations that the virus is under control. But at Easter time, we came up with a campaign. Everybody was sitting at their homes, being tired, and we said people want to go out, but they want to do it in a safe way. And we created a campaign that if you so want, we come and pick you up from your home. We take you to the hotel. You stay in your nice hotel room, relaxing hotel room, have the in-room dinner, in-room breakfast, and then at the same time, there's even an opportunity that we get a cleaner to your home, and your home will be clean. So once you have the hotel experience at hotel, and then you have the hotel experience at your home when you return. We even get your camp slippers and the chocolate on the pillow and all the things. We arranged this with the team, and this was just listening to the team how they felt, what's right now, and also listening to the audience what they felt was right now. And this became such a huge success that we launched this as the Mother's May. In Finland, we have the Mother's Day in May, and it's not one day is not enough for our industry, right? So we turned it into Mother's May. And this was also, all these things, we're starting and analyzing and getting the feedback in. I wrote a LinkedIn post about this one, and I got like 200,000 reviews to that post, 2,000 comments and anything. And this is now getting me to the biggest qualities, like getting your team inspired, getting, and communicating about the things you do. Because, after Easter, after May, we thought that everybody had heard about this thing, but no, sometimes when your team is getting, a little bit sick, they're still talking about the same thing. It's keep repeating, because now this is a huge thing. We are doing the campaign for all the hotels, and everybody wants to be doing this. So it's getting the people on board, getting them really interested in a lot of things. And this is now, I think this is about the creativity and emotional intelligence and getting them back. So it's about being the inspirational leader. Of course, you need to put the technology in, because that helps a lot. That gives you the hard data and all those things. But I think it all boils down to the biggest skill we will need in this industry is the leadership. Because with the leadership as such, that will help people, people want to be led. I think this crisis showed, of course, personally, I think being a leader in the crisis is actually easier than being a leader on a normal time, because now everybody's focus is clear, everybody understands the situation much better. But then, it wasn't the hardest thing, close to hotels, temporarily lay off the people. The hardest thing was getting back up again and getting the same message through the people. And that's what I think it calls the leadership. And that combines the skills, the listening, adaptability, flexibility, resilience, whatever you're talking about. Third being the creativity, technology, and then, combining these to be a leader. So quite a few of them, but I think these are the ones I would, go for if I would be, still with the company. I'm sure I will not be leaving this industry. For now, I will have a little break, but that's how I see. So that's my skill set. I don't know, what are the others thinking about? Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. I think it was a very good insight, and what you did, you just actually opened the Pandora's box of our industry, which is technology. And I absolutely agree with you that also being before connected to different industries, that hospitality somehow has been rather conservative. and somehow really very classical in many ways. So probably that situation where we are now, or that great lockdown, will also enable some different thinking. But I absolutely agree with you that nothing starts without leaders, because if leaders are not asking the questions regarding that, should we include some kind of technological ideas, or should we include some different things, then that's what we've been using so far, nothing happens, because the initiative sometimes comes from down, but still the leading and some of the important questions on a strategical level should be done by leaders. I absolutely will take away the Mother's May. I think that as a marketing idea and as an idea also to employer branding, that's a perfect thing. So thank you very much, Laura. And before we go to John, I know we have a third poll. We love polls. And now back to you, Hilary. Thank you, Laura.
Sure. No, this is, well, we love polls because we get some data, right? We just talked about technology and what people think, but I also love doing them. So here we go. We have now our third poll about teams. So I'm going to launch it. You will see it on your screen if you can vote. And the question is, what are your teams mostly struggling with? Is it motivation? Is it job safety? Is it team morale? Or is it mental issues coming from this whole situation we're in? Again, the poll is anonymous. We will not know who voted for what, so you're totally safe. But we would like to get your viewpoints on this. So I see people are voting. We are about half, 50% done. I kind of would like to get it up to about 80, so I'll give you a bit more time. So again, what are you most struggling with? And I think this is very nicely, what I'm seeing right now from the numbers will play really nicely into what we've been hearing, and I'm sure John's going to add to this with some more quite practical things that he's been doing with his teams, because I think that that will, but from what I see right now, this will be perfect segue then into the next section. So it's interesting, right, of what I thought this would result in, and I'm going to end the poll now because we're at 80%. There we go, guys. So it is motivation, which is interesting. For me personally, I would have thought it would be job safety. But we do see it is motivation, and interestingly enough, team morale is quite closely tied with job safety. So I think this is a good one to have for us as well. So Maarika, over to you to introduce John.
Thank you, Hilary. And yes, we have John joining us from UK, and your title is Talent Management. And everything about the teams, because the leaders are not enough. You need also to have so-called larger group to fulfill the tasks. And we've been talking with you actually a lot about motivation. So I'm handing over to you, and please, most welcome, and just let us into your world.
Oh, well, good morning, and thank you very much for the invite. It's a pleasure to listen to Hetty and Laura and everybody. It's great to be here. I've got a very peculiar feeling this is all going to knit in quite beautifully, because I've been smirking to myself for the last 5 minutes about inspiration and motivation, because it's exactly what I've been doing for the past month. All of our hotels, I receive 4 5-star hotels, and we all open on this Saturday on the 4th. And we are not having a slow opening. Our occupancy levels, thank God, are very high. We're in the mid-90s in some properties immediately, and that goes through into September, October. And we're very blessed by the properties we've got, and I think it's kind of like the brand and who we are, why we've got this kind of confidence from the public. But because of that, following on from Hetty and Laura, there's a lot of pressure. And the biggest thing that when I've come back, I've kind of had to think, how will my teams tick? What will make the teams work? And it kind of stemmed from when I was asked to come back to work. I was not in a good mental place. I know what I'm doing. I'm very good at what I'm doing, but to go from the great lockdown straight back into work within, say, 48 hours, instead of playing with my son in the park or whatever, was very hard emotionally, and very hard for me to get my brain back into kind of work mode. So what I've done is the main purpose of what we do is I want my teams and who I support to think differently. It's one of our mantras in the group is we have to think differently than what our competitors do, because we're at the top 1% in our field, inspiring, motivating, and have this innovation. So what we've done is I've kind of thought, right, well, everyone's going to have a bad experience. It could have been someone who's lost somebody, someone who's been unwell, someone's been alone. There's numerous negativities that everyone's been through, but the positivity of coming back to work and earning money, etc., etc. So the first thing I did was I sent out to all of my middle management, all of my, in my head, operational inspirers, motivators, and re-energizers, was a self-reflexive questionnaire. What type of manager are you now after these months? I know Hetty's going to be, this is exactly what, this is kind of all in one now. Kind of what pressure am I going to feel from my manager because of the changes in my industry? Am I going to have a limited budget? Is my team going to be limited? What have I been in bad times before? Do I have experiences which I can pull on to go through this? How resilient am I as a manager going back to leading my team? And I thought, whilst they're at home with their families, just to upset them, of course, I'll send them this questionnaire to get them just sitting on the couch with a glass of wine one night to kind of think, well, am I in the right place to go back? And it was interesting. I got a lot of feedback, and the big thing was we kind of thought, right, okay, well, I've got their attention now. What more can I do? So then I started to send them COVID modules on what we've been through, and when we go back to work, there's going to be mandatory things we're going to need to know. So let's do a bit of e-learning. I know not everybody likes e-learning, so therefore I thought, okay, well, we've done that. And then the CEO and all of the senior management, we all came up with, well, let's do a big Zoom, but not a Zoom like your normal one. We went to one of the greatest leaders in the sporting world. We went to Sir Clive Woodward, who won the World Cup with the English rugby team and director of the Great British Olympic team at London. And so we went for a highly qualified, world-renowned motivator and inspirer, and thought, well, who else is going to be doing this? No one. So we will. So we got 70 or 80 of our managers to listen to Sir Clive for an hour. And if you can't be motivated after that, there's something wrong with you. It was unbelievable. It was all about togetherness. It was all about trust, inclusivity, and hopefully, and this is what I'm aware of now, that all of my kind of middle management are going to go back into their operation motivated. We're going to have to go back with SOPs that have changed. We're going to have to go back to the operation with changes that governments have decided. Therefore, let's get the teams together and let's make these decisions together, and let's have this group buy-in. I don't think going back to the operation saying we're doing this because I said so is a good trait going forward. So therefore, we have got the buy-in from our teams, and that going forward is key, because they will follow it to the letter, because it's their decision as well. And I think that is absolutely key to re-energizing and motivating the team. So we've kind of gone down the mental side to see how people are in themselves without prying, just for them to reflect. We've then done supportive work with modules and SOPs, and we've written SOPs for when the managers come back, so they don't have to stress about that either. Because also when their teams come back, I'm very aware of some of their teams may have issues, as Hetty and Laura have both said. People who are coming back from a long lockdown, they could not want to be there. Something could have happened personally. So if I need my managers to have that empathy and to understand, hold on, if something happens, I'm going to need a playbook. So then the next thing we've done is we've written a playbook. We've written like an FAQ Bible of what could happen and what should we do around it. It could be a guest falling ill. It could be a member of staff falling in when they halfway through a shift. There could be panic. There could be rumor. We do not want that at our level. So therefore, we've kind of tried to create this world of support and make the key roles focus on the challenges ahead to re-energize the culture and to have that support there for them. And with that, a lot of things regarding why focus on the middle management, which has kind of been, the team is massively important, but my middle management is key to making these operations work at full capacity, especially for the rates we're going to be at, well, we are at. So therefore, why is this? Well, because our brand is our team. And I was talking to Maarika the other day about this. We've got beautiful properties throughout the UK where royalty stay. It's all very pretty and people will come and try and relax. But we are very aware that the buildings have been there for thousands of years, hundreds of years. The team is the brand, their behaviors, their standards, and their adaptability is key. Now, if we can have this middle management team surrounding them, naturally being calm themselves, because the amount of support and work we've done behind closed doors before we open is vital for that operation to be successful going forward. And it doesn't look like it's going to slow down. You know, our spas aren't even open yet because of the British lockdown. It's only our hotels and our restaurants. So when our spas and our clubs and our gyms open, there's going to be even more demand. And I think adaptability and cross-training on the job and supporting on the job is going to be key going forward.
Thank you, John. And I see that actually all three of you tackled the topic very well. And actually everything was brilliantly connected. And if I have to wrap up before I give the last word to Hilary, then what are actually the main topics, starting from the leaders, is really curiously listen to your people, ask questions, and get to understand them as human beings, like Hetty said, not as human doings, because human doing is something that we already know or see. Importance of technology. I absolutely agree with Laura that we have been very much using that kind of as a buzzword, but it hasn't been so much actually included in our everyday work and life in hospitality industry, and all the skills around that. Not that only one person with an engineer diploma knows everything in the hotel, but actually the whole team, and starting from the leader understands that what does it mean. Self-reflecting questionnaire, John, exactly. That's something that you give a trust to your team, that assess where are you, what is the status, where do you stand now, and how willing are you coming back, and also letting know yourself and your peers that what's there to look for. Trusting inclusivity, and why not use some other people from some other industries to motivate, who have been brilliant in that, not only within our own, because many things are getting together and the world somehow seems more connected. And of course, the middle management importance, and that actually also to understanding the mental sides of the people and supporting them by so-called playbook, what you also very nicely described. I would say that's a very good recipe to start with when we talk to restart the teams. So thank you, dear panelists, for today and joining us. And we're really grateful from the bottom of my heart, and probably the teams also listening us wherever they are listening. Hilary.
Thank you, Maarika, and thank you everyone else as well. Well, we had actually one question from the audience. This is to John. Would you be willing to share your self-reflecting questionnaire?
Of course, no problem. If I can get details, I'll take all the branding off it for legal reasons, and then I'll happily forward on. That's no problem.
Great. I will make sure that we get that communication out. So thank you, whoever asked the question. We'll make sure we send it to you. Thank you again to all our panelists, and thank you, Maarika, for leading such a great session. I think there's some great insights. I think there's plenty to go back now to your teams and to your people and implement things, because the time really is now. I know we all want to take vacations and so on, but I think summer is also the time that we're going to try to make some of the lost revenue that didn't happen in the springtime. And this is the perfect time to use this for reflection and getting to really listen to your team members. We will be back with the webinars now weekly. We have 5 more coming up after this. We will be back next Wednesday, episode 3, about product and service and how clients' expectations and behavior has changed. We will be announcing our speakers tomorrow. I will also send you the link to rewatch this and share with your team, and anything else that, including the infographic, as a summary of this session. So we'll be sending out communication about this tomorrow. From all of us at New Baltic Hospitality Forum, myself, Maarika, Nete, Katrin, and Ain, we thank you. We thank our supporting partners, Enterprise Estonia and City of Tallinn. I wish you all a great continuation of summer and all the best, and please stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you from me, and have a good day. Bye, everyone.